Hello, Odooers. In this video, I'll be going through how to export records out of Odoo and how to import records back into Odoo. From an importing perspective, we'll be looking at both updating existing records as well as to be able to create new records. So let's get started. One of the very easy places to get started for import-export will be our contacts database. So if I go into a contacts, we can look at the list of our contacts in here. As you all know, by default, it is a card view. You can switch back into the list view as well, and this shows you the list of all the contacts you have in your database. Now, let's hypothetically say I have to import some records. So currently, I have got about 55 contacts in my system, and I have to add purchased a new company. Hence, I'm merging two businesses into one, and for that purpose, I need to import more contacts and more customers into my books. So let's see how we go about doing that. So first thing I need before I can start is I'll need a template to work on. So I need a template that I can fill data with, and that template can be used for importing. So question is, how do I get that template? That's quite easy. What you do is you just pick up one record as an example, right? Well, no, doesn't matter if it's one record or two records. So just pick up one record as an example. Click on action, click on export. And in here, what you do is you choose the fields that you want to import from an Excel spreadsheet. So as an example, I do not want activities because no activities has been created as yet. Company, it is going to be the same company that I'm currently working on. I might want to include, say, street name, for example, which is the part of the address. So if I scroll down in here, I should be able to see street and street too, and I can move this up and down so that it's correctly formatted. Usually it is a street, then the city, and then the country. And finally, I've got the phone and email. I'm not too fussed about the salesperson at this stage, right? And if there are more information, like for example, the price list, I can include the price list name in here. Any of those sorts of other additional details that I want, I can include those columns. So let's just look up price list. MNOP price list is here, right? So I can say, hey, I want the price list name as well. Right, so I've got the price list name. Cool. So now I hit export in here. It has created a template for me. Once I open the Excel spreadsheet, it's opened on the new screen there. I'll bring it up over here. So this is what a template now looks like. I can use this template to add more information into it and import the information. So as an example, let's hypothetically say I want to import Raju Pillai. Where does he stay? He stays at the Taj Mahal and New Delhi or Agra it is, and country is India, and my phone number and email address Raju at enabling.co.nz, and assuming I am on the same public price list. In this case, I'll just copy that record. In a similar way, I can add Andrew Telfa, and where does Andrew live? He lives in Big Street, and that is somewhere in Auckland. And we can put the other details in here. I can put the email address. And as much data as I wanted here. So you guys get the gist, right? So you fill in, this might be a copy and paste from some other spreadsheet into here. So you fill this information in. Now, before I import, because I'm importing new records, the template record that I've created, we need to remove that. So I'll just right click in here and go delete, because I don't want to create a duplicate of that. So right, I have now a new set of data that I need to import into my database. Great. So I will save the spreadsheet. It's called contact within brackets REST partner 4. So I'll close this in here. I will go into my contacts list. I'll go favorites, import records, upload file. And that is a spreadsheet that I was working on. Yep, and I go open in here. So what I can do in here is I can get it to do a test to check if everything is fine. If something is not fine, it will complain. I'm sure as I'm going through and creating more examples, there will be areas you will be able to see see the system swear at me saying, bugger off, you're not doing the right thing. But in this case, I have been perfect. So it has got all the information correct. Great. And I am using the first row as a header. So that is also perfectly fine. So I can just go import. So now that it is done that, I should have a Andrew Telfer with that email address. And I should be having Raju, who now lives in Taj Mahal somewhere. Yep, there it is. Yep, there it is. There is Raju at enabling.co.nz. If I go into that, right, that's my address, Taj Mahal in Agra in India. And that's my email address. So this gives you a gist of how getting records into the system works, right? And if I needed to do the same thing with products, if I want to import new products, I'll just go with that one more example, and then we'll see how to update the records as well. Right? So I'll go into products, into my product master, and this time we are dealing with product template, not product variants. I'll try and keep things simple in this video. It's more to get an idea and how to train yourselves to get to the next step, right? The concept of products is also the same. So if I go into a particular product, what I need is a name. Can it be sold or can it be purchased? Whether it is a storable product or not, if there's a sale price to it, what the sale price is, what category it belongs to, what the product code is, or the internal reference as the case might be. I'll leave the variant for the time being. From a sales perspective, if it is going to be available in point of sale, if you're using it, then we can have that. From a purchase perspective, we want to import the suppliers who are going to be giving us this product. Now, in this case, we are looking at a one-to-many relationship, right? So we've got one product which is being supplied by multiple suppliers. My personal preference will be to split those two into two different pieces of data so that it's easier. And I'll show you how and why we are doing it, so that it's just easier to understand what we are importing. So there is one more place within purchase orders wherein you can import the vendors against a product. So I'll show you how a bit later, but can carry on. Under the inventory, if I wanted to do does it have serial number or lot number, any of those fields, I can export the routes as well. And from an accounting perspective, typically most cases, nobody gets in there. So I have just kind of at a high level identified what are the fields that I want to be populated by the time I import it. Now that I've kind of put it in my mind, I can just go, I can pick up a particular product in here. So if I go I should probably use that. Yep, this is a storable product and it is a drawer. I use that as a template. Just like what I did with my customer, I choose one product, action, I'll click on export in here, and then I will choose the fields, right? So favorites, not necessary. Yes, I want the name. I want the product code in here. I want the sale price. Quantity on hand won't come in here because that comes to the transactions. Forecasted, same thing. I don't want any of this. I can now look at the other product, other information that I wanted. Say, for example, in this case, I wanted to know the category of the product. So if I scroll down in here, I should be able to see the category. That is the category routes. Let me just see. And point of sale category, there should be a product category. There it is. So I will include the product category name in here because I needed that. And yeah, I can, as you can see, I can go and add more columns if required. And again, traceability. Say, for example, if I wanted to say whether it is traceable by lots or units, or if I go scroll down in here, if I go tracking, I can include that. I've got the unit of measure already included in here. I'll go with this. Okay, we'll just import a few products. So I'll go export in here. Right, so I now have a template of a product that I can go in and I can fill in more details. So what are the things I'm going to be selling? I will be selling Samsung phone. Well, and this is SS20 as a product code. This is the iPhone 13 as a product code. What do these sell for? $1,500, $2,000. And cost, this is $1,000, this is what, $500. And the cost is something, again, if you're using average cost, you don't necessarily need to put this information in, because as you import the products, the average cost along for those products are also imported at the same time. So now I've got the other information that I can use to import it. So I've got the units and the categories. And again, if I want to say I wanted the tracking, I can put in that I am going to be tracking by lots. I can replace that by serial, for example, any of those things. If I want to know what should I be putting in here for serial numbers, the best way to do that is if I go back to the screen in here, right? And I go into here, into the draw, discard that. Don't select anything in here and open it. So if I go into a particular product in here, if I hover on the tracking, it tells me this, that it is what the traceability of that is. Now, what I can do is if I want to know what values it can have, I can go into the settings. And if I activate the developer mode in here, and then go back to my inventory and the product, and go back to my list view because I can see it more easier there. I remember it was a product called raw. So if I go into the inventory tab, and now if I hover it over here, it can tell me what are the things I can put in there. So I can either put in by lots or by no track, or I can say no tracking, or by unique serial number. The spellings have to be exactly as it's specified in there. So in this case, if I wanted some product to be no tracking in here, so I can say for my Samsung, no, as an example, right? So this way I have populated the data in my spreadsheet of products that I need to import. I will save this. For product category, it has exported the full path as well as the half path of it, just the name of it. I usually prefer to use a full path so that if the same name is being used in multiple places, we can use it. Hence, I did not bother to populate the second name because I'm going to be importing only column F. I'm going to be ignoring the column G. Right, so I'm back into my product list in here. So let's start. So I can go into my favorites, import records, upload file. And there is my product template, open that. Yep, so all of that is fine. If I go and test in here, yep, everything seems valid, and I go import. And 3 records imported. So if I go back in here, I look for my Samsung. I just realized I've imported 3 records, not 2 that I wanted, because I forgot to delete the first record. See, I told you, we will make these mistakes. So, yep, right. So my Samsung phone has been imported in here. I put whatever the sale price was. Did I put a cost of $100? Maybe. Yes, I did. Not $1,000. So there we go. And this one, if my memory serves right, I had said no tracking. So hence this has picked it up here as no tracking. Otherwise, I've got the information, the product category, because by default, it's a storable product, and hence I'd not export it, but you can export that product type as well. And if you wanted to specify whether it's a consumable or a storable product, you can include that in your export and update that as well. But you get the gist, right? In terms of being able to import new records into the system, create a template from your existing records, choose one record, export the columns on that you want to import back in, populate the spreadsheet, delete the first row, do an import process in here to get the data in. So it's as simple as that. Now let me show you what we can do to be able to edit the records, i.e. export the records, do a mass change on them, and import them back in, right? I'll go back to my contacts record, and I'll go back to the list view in here. Let us say that, let's say, for example, we have some companies, we have some people in here, right? I have got this Edwin, Jesse, and Lorraine. And in here I'll choose to say that I want to update their cities. They are all no longer in Stockton. They've all moved from Stockton to Auckland, right? So what I can do in this case is I can again go action export. Now, because this time I want to update the records and bring them back in, I don't want to insert new records into the system, okay? Because I want to update existing records, what I will do is I'll put a tick on here to say I want to update data. Okay, that's very important. If you don't do that and you export it and you edit and import it back, it will create new records and you will end up with duplicates in your system. So please make sure that if you are going to be editing records, put that tick on, right? Now, what are the things I want to edit, as I said in here, is I'll probably want the name, because the name is easier for me to identify. I want the name as a column. So if I come in here, I'll include the name for exporting. And the next thing I said I wanted to do was change the city, right? And MNPE city, there we go. And just for fun, let's also do the price list. Why not? More because, look, realistically speaking, it's mostly being used for things like price list and few other items that we need to update. You probably won't be exporting and updating the city in most cases. So let me use a good example. So there we go. I've got that. So if I open the spreadsheet in here, got the spreadsheet, yeah, and again I will go. Now this time, what you'll notice is there is the first column in here, which is called the ID column, right? Do not touch that. Leave it as it is, because that is the identifier to tell Odoo which record it needs to update. So leave that column A, do not touch it, right? You want to update the city to Auckland City, so I can come here, put Auckland, right? And in a similar way, if you wanted to update the price list in here, let me just close out of this. Too many windows open, sorry. Right, so if I go back to my Odoo in here, I have got that. Let me just see what are the price lists I have, so that I can update one or two price lists with a different name, and we can import that back in. So under products, if I go to a price list, I have a public price. Hey, great, I have a Raju's price list, wonderful. So if I go back in here, so this one in here is this, and I can probably say, as an example, one will do, right? So I have updated the records, the information. I can go back to my contacts list in here, favorites, import records, upload file. I'll choose a file that I was working on, which is contact 5 in here. Yep, that's the one. And just do a test on it to say everything is happening. Yep, see, I told you it's going to swear on me at some stage. So it could not find a matching record for Raju's price list. Maybe I have misspelled it. Under sales, products, price list, Raju's PRICELIST, and oh, that's a New Zealand dollar price list, not a US dollar price list. See, I knew I was doing something wrong. And this is how Odoo will tell you that something is not right. There you go. I wanted to show you that as an example, done and dusted. So I'll go back to my Excel spreadsheet in here, and I'll just say this is entity. Did I put it in the wrong place? Of course I did. Right, so I will cancel this import and I'll go for import again, upload the file, going to choose a file I want to import, open in here, and just run a test on it here. Again, it does not like it because it's probably doesn't need the currency. No, Raju's, oh, PRICELIST. And let me just check what I have put in there. Yep, save that. I'll just, third time lucky, I guess. I'll try it again. Import a file, cancel that. Import records, upload file. That one and open. And go test. Everything, yep, it's happy. Because the currency was already defined in the price list, all it did was I had to remove the name had to match exactly what is in the price list name. So that's why I had to remove that, but that's okay, all good. I've updated the price list file, price list values in that particular spreadsheet. And yep, so I'll go import. it has imported 3 records. So just to check, if I go back into my spreadsheet, Edwin, Hassan, and Jesse, Jesse Brown, and Lorraine are the 3 records. You can see that they have been updated. The city has been updated to Auckland. If I go back in here and if I do look at the price list, of course, they are a child company. So hence the price list setup, I can say parent. So bad example for updating prices, but you get the idea. If you wanted to update the price list of your customers, you can do a bulk export, change the price list, and you can import it back again. Right, now let me get into a bit more of a different example. Let's hypothetically say I want to first import a list of customers, and I want to import a list of delivery addresses under them, right? Which could be a common thing as well. So the first thing I want to do is I will import the list of customers. So as we have used a template before, I'll go back to my same template and I will use an example. Just bear with me until I find the spreadsheet. That is, just bear with me. Too many spreadsheets are around. So if I go back to my downloads and refresh it, I should be able to get the spreadsheet that I had updated in here. Right. So I have got this Raju and Andrew Telfors as an example. What example? Let's use the common example, right? A good example for a customer with multiple delivery addresses, The Warehouse Limited. And I will use one more example that could be packing safe. Oh, I think it's called foodstuffs to be very precise. So I'll use the foodstuff. Yeah. Warehouse Limited is not in India. I'm not too fussed about this address, this state, so I'll leave the addresses as it is. And from a, I will put the Raju at. In most cases, because it's not a contact record, what it will have in most cases is something like this: info at the warehouse, right? And I can specify what price list that they belong to. So I've got 2 customers I'm going to be importing in here, and the tidy, the warehouse. There we go. And foodstuffs limited. Perfect. So I've got these 2 customers. So I'll go and first import these 2 customers. So I'll go into here, favorites, import records, upload file, and that will be this, which I've just edited. So go there. Yep, that's one. Open it. And I'm confident I'm not going to be doing a test. I know what I'm doing. Import it. So now if I look for in here, the warehouse, I should have the warehouse limited with the information. And I should also have the packing safe there. Of foodstuffs, right? So you get the idea. This, you knew it already because you'd seen the video for my last 20 minutes and you're probably bored with this, right? Now I want to show you how to import address records under that particular contact. So easier will be if I identify certain address records and use them as a filter to export it, then I will know what exactly I needed to do, right? So if I look at, say, sample company vessel address, in here, that is a truck address, so I can use that as a sample. So if I go into here and look for sample company, and that I know is a delivery address, and how I do know it is a delivery address is if I go into the address. Oh, I should have forgot it. Right. So I can see that it has got a parent and I can see that it is a delivery address, right? So if I go back into here, into that, I want to use that as a template. So I'll go action, export, display. So I want to have the display name. I want the phone number, email. I'm not fussed about salesperson, activities, city can be there, country not, and company, I'm not too fussed about it. As you know, I can go and add the street addresses in there as well for the delivery address. So if I come across in here, PQURS. So I've got these two streets and I can put them where I need to. Great. Now, the main thing that I wanted in here was I wanted to link this customer to a parent account. And so hence what I will need in here is there is something called related company. So from a related company name, if I come in here and I include the related company name, and then I'm scrolling too fast, right? That is the parent company. So this delivery address belongs to whom? That one. And also we have one more field in here called address type, which will help me identify what type of address it is. I use a contact, it is a delivery address, it is an invoice address, that type of thing. So if I export this record in here, these records in here, yeah, it gives me something similar to this, right? I've got the name, I've got the phone number, email address, which company it is related to, and that it is a delivery address, right? Now I want to import a few delivery addresses for the warehouse and few for the food stuff. So let's start off with the warehouse. So what I can do in here is I'll say I'm not going to be bothering with these fields in here. I'll just put now in here, I'm going to be specifying which company it is related to. So just so that I need to get the spelling exactly right as it is in my record, right? So the easiest thing to do is if you look for the warehouse, copy the name in here, and then I can paste that in here. That is much more easier, right? And I can remove this column because if you notice, we ignore the second column, which has got the name. And I know it is a delivery address type. That is what I want. And I put that delivery address. In a similar way, I wanted to have back and save Auckland City. Just Auckland is fine for me. I'm not filling the addresses in. The key difference this time is it belongs to foodstuffs, right? So I can do a copy in here and a paste in here. And this is also type delivery address in this case, right? So I've got my data in. I will get rid of my template data that is sitting in there. So I've saved this. Partner number 6, that is my file name. Now I should be able to go into here, take that out because I want all the records, import records, upload file into that file, open it, give it a test. Everything is fine. If I go import right now, technically speaking, if I look for the warehouse in here, so I've got these two. And if I go into the warehouse, I should be able to see these two in here as well. Where they come in as, yep, so they are delivery addresses. The icon is the only thing that's not refreshed. It's kept the old icon in there. It's showing a building, it should be showing a truck. But the fundamental fact is it is still a delivery address in there, right? And in a similar way, if I go to pack and save, foodstuffs, right? So I've got foodstuffs in here. If I go into foodstuff, I've got the addresses for the delivery addresses, and these two are delivery addresses as well. I'll figure out why the icon is showing as a building when it's supposed to be showing as a truck. Not too sure why, but I'll leave that for the time being in there. Right. So this gives you an idea of how to import a so-called a parent-child relationship as well. So if you have a parent-child relationship, always import the parent first. Then you will be able to import the child records because the parent records needs to be able to be there for doing the references in here. Hope that all makes sense. What other things I wanted to do? Let's hypothetically say that I wanted to change the parent records on the parent IDs on some record. There are some staff who have moved places, they have changed companies, and they've gone from one company to another company. And how could you do that? So let's take an example. I'll use Billy Fox and Julie Richards. Let's say, for example, they have moved from ready-mat into foodstuffs. How do we do that? So again, I'll go action, export. Now this time, remember, I am going to be updating the data back in. I'm not importing new records. So I want to update data. So make sure you put the tick on I want to update data. I will remove all of these things because the only things that matter for me in this example will be the name so that I know whom I'm dealing with. So the name, and what I want is the related company, MNQ related company, right? And I go export. Cool. So I have my Excel spreadsheet in here. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to be able to put our foodstuffs. But and to be on the safer side, as I've said, we come into my Odoo, which is over here. Food. Copy that. And go back to my spreadsheet. Right. So we do a delete because we don't want that. So I want to move Billy Fox and Julie Richards to foodstuffs. Great. So if I save this in here, back to my contacts, favorites, import records, upload file. That's a file I'm dealing with. Yep. Open that. Do a test. Everything is happy. Go import. And now if I look at foodstuff in here, you see these two are now related to foodstuff. So I can go back in here and I can see that I've got those two people now related to foodstuff. So if you are wanting to be updating the contact records and move the people around between different companies, this is how you can do it. Great. The next example that I wanted to show you in here, which is a common thing that happens, is I want to be able to update the vendor price list on a regular basis. My supplier keeps giving me a new price in here, and I want to update the supplier price list in my purchasing system. And this is something I mentioned, I'll come back to it earlier. If you recollect, under inventory, products, if I pick up a particular product, under purchasing, this is where we store who the suppliers are, right? The same information in a list view is available for us. If you go to purchases in here, configuration and vendor price list, you'll see the information is available in here as well, right? Let's say hypothetically, ReadyMat is the vendor who has now given me a new price list. So I can, first I'll do is come in here, put a filter for ReadyMat. These are the products that they are supplying. So what has happened is, let's hypothetically say that they have given us a Excel spreadsheet, or Wood Corner is the example. Sorry, I should not ReadyMat, Wood Corner. So if I go back in here, right? So this is the Wood Corner spreadsheet. So in my template, what typically happens is Wood Corner gives me a Excel spreadsheet which looks something similar to this. It might have more columns. It might have a column for description, for example. It doesn't really matter. You get the gist of it. So I have a different list in here, and the prices in here are different. So this is 1,000. Let me just do one thing, right? They have updated all price by 10%. Right. So Control C, Control V, and just to do that, Control C and paste these values. Great. So I have now gotten updated pricing with a 10% increase in price list. So that's what they have done in here. Cool. So what I need to do is, in the system, the pricing that we have, I need to be able to, oh, where's my Odoo gone? It is over here. So in the spreadsheet, in the system that we have, I want to update these pricing to now become this pricing. So how do I do that? This case, it is going to need a bit of Excel work. So what I need to be able to do is export this, do a VLOOKUP on this, pick up that particular column into my template that I'm going to be importing in. So let's run through an example. Great. So I have come in here, I've chosen all these products. I'll just exclude this conference chat because it doesn't have a product code. So if I do a VLOOKUP, it's going, I'll leave it there. When I do a VLOOKUP, it is going to fail, and I'll show you that it will stand out like a sore thumb. You can then remove it and put a filter on it and delete it and stuff like that. Let's go with that exception, right? So I'll come in here, I'll go action, I'll go export. And in this case, it is not a new record I want, right? I'm going to be updating the existing pricing in the system. So tick on, I want to update data. And the information that I want is, I want to know who the vendor is. That I can input the vendor product code and name, because sometimes what happens is they don't have our, in fact, most of the times they don't have our product code. They will be given that product code, but you're just doing a VLOOKUP from one column to another. You'll get the gist of it. So remove the currency, remove the company, and leave the quantity and the price. Great. So I have this exported data right now. Right, so I've got this data that is exported. Typically, they will have their product code and their product code and the product name, which I can do a VLOOKUP on. In this case, I don't have that information. Again, column A, do not touch. All I want to do is do a VLOOKUP to do a change in this. Now, there's a bit of a trick in here. Why? Because you'll see that when Odoo exports it, it does do an export with the product code and product name in the same column, which is a bit of a pain. I only wanted the product code so that I can do a VLOOKUP. Doesn't matter, Excel can definitely save us in here. In Excel, there is a function called find. If you say, hey, find me and give me the square bracket where it exists within this description, it is going to give me a number. It exists in the 9th place. So I can say, you know what, give me the left from this in here, comma, whatever the characters, wherever that character is, -1, right? So that gives me all the characters up to where the square bracket, the closing square bracket is. So there we go, we have got this, right? Now all I can do is Control-C and paste it as that. And what I can now do is in here, Control-F and do a find and replace of that. So see, it's as easy as that to get the product code if I wanted to. Great, now I have that information. I'll just do a VLOOKUP to this particular spreadsheet and I will import that in. So if I come into here, I'll go to VLOOKUP this particular value in this sheet, in that table. And I want the third column, and I want the exact match, right? So that's got the pricing, as you can see. Now, if my Excel skills are right, I just need to make sure that my references are absolute references, right? So if I technically do this here, yep, so it's updated all of those things. Just do a check. Yes, that looks right. And as I said, there'll be one product that will stand out, which will be causing an issue, and that is our conference chat, because that does not have a product code, hence the VLOOKUP doesn't come. So you guys can come in here, put a data filter, delete those records which have got hash values in them or any of those sorts of things in here, delete them. I'll save this. This is called the product supplier info 3. Now it's a easy enough task to go back in here. I can now go favorites, import records, upload files, and choose that record, open, give it a test. Yep, there is some product which I had duplicated in my example. So the furniture 8855 has got more than one record. So it is going to tell me, hey, you might probably face an issue facing that. So now that I've imported it in here, I can see that these products have actually updated the price, right? And here it is 14.9, 182, and 14.3. So that's how you can on a regular basis update your vendor price list and keep them updated. As a last example, let me also go through importing and exporting sales orders, right? Let's hypothetically say that I want to import sales orders from a different system into Odoo. Most cases, when do we do this? When we are going live with a new system, there is a bunch of records to be bought in, then it becomes a good example. So how do I get again? The process is the same. Go into my sales orders, right? Let me pick up this Azure as an example. Actually export, I'm creating a template to import new sales order. I'm not updating any, okay? Right. So I don't want the order reference because order reference will be a new field. I want the customer. I'm not too worried about the salesperson. The totals will come through. The status of that will remain as a quotation. So I'm not too fussed about those things. The things that I'll probably want is that who the customer is, even creation date. I don't necessarily need it. Customer, who the customer is, and I'll probably want the reference because that's where we typically put the customer PO number, right? So it'll be called customer reference. Yep. And if I wanted the delivery address in here, then I can include the delivery address name. Delivery address name. And if I wanted to include the price list, I can, else I can get the system to use the default price list that is linked to the customer. So from a header perspective, I'm kind of more or less happy. In one other thing that I might probably want in here is to be able to identify which warehouse the order is going to go to. So I can take this in here and include the warehouse name as well. Warehouse name, external ID, company, that is a short name, yeah. So I've got the warehouse name from where it's going to be, this order is going to be fulfilled from. Now, that's the header part of the information in my order. I now want to get to the detailed lines of the product, right? So I want a template that's got the detailed lines. So if I scroll down in here, I will see something called order lines. So from an order line perspective, typically what we'll want the product, first column, right? So if I scroll down in here, I should be able to see product. Yep, there it is. And if I'll scroll down a bit more in here, because what I want is the internal reference or the product code as we usually refer to. So if I come in here, I should be able to find the internal reference. Great, there it is. So I've got the internal reference from there. Next I want is the quantity, right? So I'll collapse this one and I'll include quantity. And the last one I'll probably want is the pricing, right? So those are so if I export this, and bring that down here. So this has become a template for me now in here. So what I can do is effectively, I can, let's say I want to import 2 different orders out of this. So I can do this is Control C, and I'll do a Control V. Now, if I wanted to change the products in here, and because I'm assuming what will happen is the source of the data from where we're exporting it will have the product codes and the quantities and the pricing that are relevant in here. So I'm not going to be sitting and typing all the product codes back in, but just from an example perspective, I will just change the customer to be a different customer. So I've used Azure Interior, so I will use Gemini Furniture as an example in here, right? So I'll come in here, the customer is. And for the second customer, I'll use. So technically speaking, I'm going to be importing 2 orders. Yep, you get the idea. So so this is what your data template is going to look like. So this is what the output from your existing system is going to look like, or your source of the data, as the case might be. Now I can come in your favorites, import records. upload files, I can pick up that sales order in here. Yep, I can just do a test to see if it has got any complaints. Yeah, because order lines has got more than one column combined in it. I do not want the order line, so I'll remove that. Just do a test. Everything is fine. Now, before I do import, always just make sure that the columns all make sense in here. So this is going to go to unit price, this is going to go to quantity, this is going to go into products. Everything looks all right, so I'll go import. So now, technically speaking, I should have a orders in here. So if I go to orders and quotations, so I do have, what were the orders I had in there? Let me just go back to the spreadsheet. I put both into Gemini Furniture while I was talking. Anyway, it doesn't matter, you get the gist. So I've got two orders for Gemini Furniture in here. One is this and the other is this. And these are effectively from the spreadsheet that I put the information in, I reported. I did say that I'll change the customer, but look, I've been talking for a long while now, so it's been tiring. You get the gist, you understand what it is, so no problems at all good talk. Cool. So yeah, this is what I wanted to show, how the importing and exporting works in Odoo. And this works for both version 14 and version 15. One very, very important information which I have to say. Question will be, how do I back up my data? If I'm going to be importing something, how do I back up the data so that if I did break something in my uploading routine, how do I go about fixing it? The best way to do that is, if you are going to be updating contacts, say for example, you're going to be playing around with contacts. The best way to do it is select all the records, go action, export as many columns that you think you're going to be updating and keep them aside. This kind of, and also put a tick on the, I want to show that, because you remember the column A, as I said, when you put a tick on that, it has got the ID to be able to identify which record it is. So do this, export all the columns, put them in an Excel spreadsheet, and that kind of becomes your backup. Tomorrow, if something while you're doing an import, some records have got updated, you want to bring it back, you can use this Excel spreadsheet that you exported before you started your task to update it back to where it was. That's one. That is for updating records. The second thing is, one other common question I get is, look, I forgot to put that tick in that new record. I exported it, exported the records, and I imported them back in. Now I have ended up with duplicate records. How do I get rid of the duplicate records that I've accidentally created? The most common way that I actually do it is, I can go back into the contacts list or whatever the records list be. And what I do is I typically group by created date, right? Because anything that's been created today, for example, in this example, what I've done now will be what the records that have got duplicated. So I'll go by created date by the specific date. So anything that I've done on the 7th of July here, these are the records I've imported. So if hypothetically, if these are all duplicate records, I want to get rid of them, easy enough, then I have at least the way to come in here, do this and action archive and or delete or whatever the case might be. This is the way I can get rid of any duplicates that I've caused by mistake. Yeah, a big disclaimer, right? Always make sure you first do a test in your test database. If you do not have a test database, get in touch with us and we will set up a test system for you with a test database. Do all your import export first in there before you come here and do any import and export in the live system. So yeah, it's always a good practice. Take a backup of the data, number one. Number two is make sure you have tested your logic of the import export in the test system. Cool. We at Enabling are always here to help. If you have any issues, give us a call. You know who to reach, where to reach. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, let us know.